Good morning everyone. In last classes we have seen basics of light, reflection, laws of reflection, refraction, laws of refraction and refractive index. Today we are going to learn about critical angle and total internal reflection. Let us see what is critical angle. Critical angle is that the angle of incidence in a denser when we incident a light ray from denser medium to the rarer medium. Please concentrate. It should be traveled from the denser to the rarer. Okay, if we incident a light ray from denser to the rarer, for the angle of incidence for which the angle of refraction is 90 degrees. Okay, in normal refraction what will happen? It will bend towards or away from the normal, but at some point it is refracted in the rarer medium. If the angle of refraction is 90 degrees, then we call it as a critical angle. Clear? The critical angle is that angle of incidence in a denser medium for which the angle of refraction is 90 degrees. Now let us see about total internal reflection. See, when angle of incidence is less than the critical angle, then refraction takes place. Listen carefully. If angle of incidence is less than the critical angle, then refraction takes place. If angle of incidence is equal to the critical angle, then it grazes along the surface. If angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle, angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle, then total internal reflection takes place. Again it reflected back to the denser medium. Reflected, listen carefully, it will reflected back to the, here reflection is takes place. Again it reflected back to the same medium. Again it reflected back to the denser medium. Okay, here refraction is takes place. When the refraction will takes place, if angle of incidence is less than the critical angle. If it is equal to critical angle, it grazes along the surface. If it is less than the critical angle, so less than or greater than, if it is greater than the critical angle, it will reflected back to the denser medium. Listen once again. If angle of incidence is less than the critical angle, then refraction takes place. If it is equal to the critical angle of incidence is equal to the critical angle, grazes along the surface. If angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle, then the reflection takes place. This phenomenon is called as total internal reflection. Where we can see the total internal reflection: brilliance of diamond, shining of small air bubble in water, formation of looming in cold countries, mirages seen in deserts. Okay, listen once again. What is critical angle? Critical angle is that angle of incidence in the denser medium for which angle of refraction is 90 degrees. That is called as critical angle. Then what is the total internal reflection? When a light ray traveling in denser medium is incident on the surface of a rarer medium such that angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle, for the pair of media, the ray is reflected back into the denser medium. This phenomenon is called as total internal reflection.